Hi, everyone. Here I am again. I'm with Scott DeSalvo today from the DeSalvo Law Firm. And I'd like to talk today, hopefully about something I think a lot of people are concerned about. And that's if you're in an injury and you have some minor injuries, maybe injuries that don't require your surgery or anything like that, but the insurance companies need to pay for your legal fees. How do you present that to them, and what can you do? Do you need an attorney? All this good stuff. So Scott, I'm going to bring you in and let you discuss that a little bit. Here's the injury attorney, Chicago, Illinois. Thanks, Scott. I appreciate your time.
Hey, well, thanks for calling, Kent. Yeah, I mean, I think it's something you and I have been talking about a little bit more and more, and it's basically what's happening is insurance companies understand that the more people who think that soft tissue injuries or non-surgical cases aren't big cases, and really what motivates insurance companies to settle a case is fear. So if you can't put a case together that scares the insurance company as to what a jury will do with it, then you're in a situation where they'd rather spend the money and have a trial. You'll never get a settlement on a case like that. The problem, though, is you're fighting against a company that has unlimited resources. So what we're coming up against these days a lot is people don't hire an attorney, and the insurance company strings them along until they hit their deadline. And then right before the deadline, they'll call a fellow like me, and we'll explain to them that, it takes a little time to put these cases together. And, we take the cases, but these insurance companies have so many resources that they think nothing about going out and hiring a doctor of their own to say that there's nothing wrong with the injured guy. And they'll take them to trial rather than offer a free settlement. What that means for the little guy, though, is that it's a challenge to find an attorney who's willing to go all the way for you on the case. Lawyers like me work on what's called a contingency basis, and that means we only get paid if we win, and we don't charge the injured person an hourly rate. So it could be, look, I don't begrudge people for the way they choose to run their business, and there are a lot of lawyers out there who want the slow pitch. I mean, I'll be honest, if you told me I could have a choice to just have, maybe a dozen or 2 dozen cases in my office and they're all multi-million-dollar cases, my life would be pretty easy. But I'm not in it for easy. I'm in it to help people. And so when somebody comes to my office and says, look, I've got real pain, I've got real treatment, I'm living with it, I don't need surgery, and the insurance company is stonewalling me, I take it seriously. And so I feel like I'm one of a very small who's willing to take a case like this all the way. And I can understand the attorneys who don't want to do it, but I take the service part of being an attorney pretty seriously. We're not here just to cash the big check. We're here to help people who need us. And that's, I'm one of the guys who stayed awake during the ethics class in law school where they told you it's a privilege to practice law. And part of your job is to help people that nobody else are helping. So that's, have I talked enough for you? Are your ears bleeding yet?
No, absolutely. That's great information. Well, let me ask you a question. At what point, let's say I just got into an injury, someone backed into me or somebody sideswiped me or something like that, and I'm hurting. At what point do you think that you should always see a doctor every time you're injured, every time you're in an accident? Should you always see a doctor? Should you wait for some symptoms? Or at what point do you think that triggers me to see, or someone to see a doctor? And then at what point do you think that should manifest itself into talking to an attorney?
That's a great question. And I get this a lot with people who get into a crash. The first day they're not feeling too much pain and they try and tough it out. And it would be hypocritical of me to criticize anybody who does that, because I come from a long line of people, my entire family. None of us run to the doctor as a first resort. And, that's pretty cool, except let's take the law and the injury claim out of it. Let's just talk about your body and your health and your life. We live in an era here where medicine is fantastic. And whether we're talking about injuries from a car crash or a fall down, or whether we're talking about a disease like cancer or Parkinson's. There's not a single medical problem that a person has out there these days that is not results in a better the earlier you get medical intervention. In other words, the earlier they catch cancer, the more likely they are to cure you. The earlier you see a doctor when you start having pain, the shorter period of time you're likely to have pain, and the earlier they'll know what's going on and what the appropriate medical care is. So, I'm going to take off my lawyer hat for a minute and put on my human being hat, although I don't know why it should be two separate hats. But I think people today owe it to themselves that if they're feeling pain after an injury, you only get one spin on the wheel here. Hurt, at a minimum, get into a hospital and get checked out. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with the human body that seem minor. In fact, I was talking to a friend of mine about this. The symptoms of a serious permanent back injury are almost identical early on to a temporary back injury. So the pain you're feeling, the symptoms you're feeling in the days following a car crash, you can't yourself interpret what those symptoms and what that pain is. Only a doctor can do that. So just because you're not hurting too bad doesn't mean you shouldn't see a doctor. But if God forbid you're hurt in a more serious permanent way and you end up having to go into litigation and filing a lawsuit, insurance companies love it when people delay getting medical treatment, because in every case there's a gap in treatment. It's what lawyers call a treatment gap. In every case where there's a treatment gap, the insurance company lawyer always argues to the jury, if we let them get away with it, if the trial judge lets them get away with it, they will always argue, well, hey, if this person got into a car crash and they were injured, why didn't they go to a doctor right away? Isn't that what you're supposed to do? If you get hurt, you see a doctor. But, Mr. Smith waited 10 days before he saw a doctor. And then he waited another month after that to see a doctor again. We don't know what happened in that gap. So injury lawyers are very careful about it. And unfortunately, even though it is the most natural thing in the world for people to do to delay getting medical care, when you're sitting on a jury for some reason, jurors buy that argument. They lend that argument credence and say, hey, if it was me, I would have went to the doctor right away. So there's something fishy going on here. We really live in a day of skepticism of injury cases. And, I can understand if there's a bad case that doesn't deserve compensation. But what the insurance industry is doing in a lot of these cases is taking natural human skepticism and attempting to paint all injury cases with that brush. So I'm really proving myself to be the typical lawyer by using 1,000 words when 10 could probably suffice. But, whether it's your health or whether it's for purposes of making a claim or a lawsuit, getting in to see a doctor right away is absolutely essential. Also, to the last part of your question, lawyers offer free consultations, and, I offer a free consultation either by telephone or in person, or whatever anybody wants to do. I'm happy to answer questions, and the consultation is free and no obligation. So, I talk to people all the time, and we don't proceed on a case because, and I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to answer people's questions, but obviously, I trust people's instinct, and when a person feels like the insurance company they're dealing with is starting to get a little shifty, people's instincts about that is usually very good. It means the insurance company is about to deny your claim, cut off your benefits. So, it costs you nothing but a phone call and some time to talk to a lawyer like me who can answer your questions and give you a read about the case and what you have to prove. So it costs you nothing and it can benefit you. It's probably a good idea to talk to a lawyer if you have any concerns.
Thanks, Scott. And another question I have is, what am I entitled to as far as damage is concerned? Am I just entitled to my injuries as far as what my medical costs were, or the damages? I know I can get the damages for my personal injury or my car or whatever injury, but I mean, not injury, but my property losses. But what about how far can I go with, can I take damages for my lost wages, for pain and suffering, all these other things. How much can I actually?
Yeah, so I do two kinds of law, and there's two categories as far as damages go. The first one I'll say is workers' comp in Illinois. So if a person is injured on the job, they're entitled to make a workers' comp claim. And workers' comp works differently than every other kind of case, so I'll talk about that briefly. In a workers' comp case, you are entitled to be paid while you're off work. You're entitled to all of your medical care, which is related to the injuries you sustained. And then when you reach what's called maximum medical improvement, MMI, you're entitled to, it's actually a sort of a strange calculation. Each injury is rated as a percentage of the body part. So for example, a broken arm might be considered 40% of an arm. And you look up that body part on a chart and it tells you the number of weeks of compensation that injury corresponds to. It's sort of this strange formulation that the legislature, the lawmakers in the state of Illinois came up with to keep costs down for employers. So in workers' comp, there's no such thing as pain and suffering and stuff like that, but you do get your medical bills paid, you do get paid while you're off, and then you get a lump sum of money at the end of the case because your body's not the same as it was before the injury. And that lump sum of money is meant to compensate you for that. Now, in every other kind of injury case in the state of Illinois, whether it's a car accident, a fall down, nursing home abuse, dog bite, whatever it is, there are a lot more categories of damages you can get. But the big ones are obviously you can get your medical bills paid for related medical treatment. You can get pain and suffering money. And that's not only pain and suffering from the period of time where the pain was worse when you first sustained your injuries, but if you have a permanent injury that's only a 1 or 2 on a 1 to 10 pain scale, where 1 is very little pain and 10 is excruciating pain, let's say you recover and your pain level is only a 1 or 2, under Illinois law, you're entitled to recover for the fact that you experience 1 or 2 pain on that pain scale for the rest of your life. So you're able to recover future damages and for future medical care. You're also able to recover for lost wages and future lost wages. If there is scarring or disfigurement, you can recover money for that. And you can also recover for psychological injuries, but that's really, you have to walk on delicate ground there if you're going to make a claim for emotional or psychological harm for reasons that are probably too complicated for us to get into right now. But I would say the big difference between workers' comp damages and personal injury damages is that in comp, the legislature set the system up to keep damages low, to keep the amount that the injured worker gets low. Whereas in these other kinds of cases, it's a judge and jury, baby. It's a judge and jury. So you get 12 people from the community who hear about the bad things that the defendant corporation did that caused the injuries. And then it's up to the conscience of the judge and these 12 jurors to make a decision that they think is fair. So, luckily in Illinois, we have no caps on damages. And what the jury says goes, subject to a very few rules.
Very good. Let me ask you this now. If I want to get a hold of you or contact you, can you give me a little information about yourself and about your law practice and your contact information?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in Chicago. I've lived in Chicago my whole life. My office is on LaSalle Street, which, people joke about it being Lawyers Row. It's where all the lawyers have offices, and that's where my office is. I'm at 200 North LaSalle, Suite 2675, and I set up a toll-free number for people to call me because sometimes it's just easier for people to remember. The number is 888-HURT-318. That's 888-HURT, as in H-U-R-T, and then 318. Hoping that that's catchy and people can remember it. I don't know if it is or it isn't, but I actually have a call center where where I have operators standing by waiting for the call. And the difference here is these folks have been trained by me to take the calls, and they know the right questions to ask. So what'll happen is somebody calls that number, they get their phone answered on 2 or 3 rings maximum, whether it's the middle of the night, first thing in the morning, or the middle of the day. And then I'm immediately forwarded the call and the email, and I look at it right away, and I get back to people right away.
Well, I appreciate that, Scott. You know, going up against big insurance companies is a little bit daunting sometimes. So a person like you, helping someone to recover your injuries or your losses from that insurance company is just an absolute necessity. You got to do it. You can't let them tell you that you haven't been injured when it benefits them. And I appreciate the information. I'm going to show your website here real quick too, so people can see it. It's DeSalvoLaw.com. There's Scott, and he's available for you, like he said, anytime you want to call. And how long have you been practicing law, Scott?
Boy, 18 years now.
Wow.
And
so you've had a few of these cases already.
Yeah, injury law the whole time I've been practicing. And, you know, honestly, I guess I could go try and be a defense lawyer and get paid the big dollars guaranteed by the insurance companies, but that's just it's not where my heart lies. You know, I like to help the little guy. It's the David and Goliath deal. You know, anybody can go help the big, powerful, rich people, but, you know, we need good people fighting to help the little guy who's sort of getting worked over by the moneyed interests, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. When you've got insurance company owned by people like Warren Buffett, you know that you're up against some pretty tough competition.
Yeah, he's got a buck or two.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate it, Scott. I'm sure everybody enjoyed this, and I'm sure that you've helped a lot of people. So you're doing what it is that you intend to do, which is giving people support and help and giving them information. That's what this is all about, and I thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem, man. I just want to say I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. And, you know, really, I'm seeing it more and more. These insurance companies are basically putting the hurt on the little guy because, you know, if it's not a serious big injury with hundreds of thousands of dollars of medical bills and a surgery, a lot of lawyers feel lukewarm about the case because you're not talking about the automatic slam dunk. Obviously, I like slam dunks too, but I'm opening, you know, I see it happen every day that insurance companies just discount somebody's injury if it's lower on that pain scale, even if it's permanent, because they know that if they get in front of a jury and pull some of the tricks that they pull, they can get a jury to believe that, you know, it's not a real injury. But I'm going to tell you, man, a permanent injury to the neck or back that nags you and bothers you and interrupts your sleep, and you know it's a life sentence, and the doctors have told you there's nothing they can do for you. To me, that's a big deal. And so when somebody comes in my office and says that's the problem that they're having and they need my help, I take it seriously and I'll do everything I can to help them.
Yeah, and I've worked with you before, so I know, Scott, that you're sincere about this, and I know that you're willing to help people because I've seen what you've done already, and I think that there's a lot of reviews online about you and all your good work. In fact, I've talked to a few of those people, and I know that they've given you a big vote of confidence as far as what you do and how you can help them. So I hope other people take advantage of that.
Well, that makes 2 of us.
Well, thanks, Scott. I'm going to let you get back to your work.
Hey, thanks.
Okay, bye.